The abandoned alien child crawled for help. Only a human answered. Cold night wind moved through the broken metal mountains of Rust Vale. Old machines lay everywhere like the bones of forgotten giants. Cade Rowan stood behind the abandoned alloy factory, trying to fix the loose fuel line on his rusty transport buggy. It was late, and the whole industrial zone was empty. Only the flickering neon sign above the gate made a weak buzzing sound. Then Cade heard it. A thin sound. Soft. Trembling. Almost too small for the human ear. A sound that did not want to be heard, but could not hide. Cade stopped working and lifted his head slowly. His breath became still. At first he thought it was some injured animal trapped between the metal piles. Rust Vale often had strange creatures wandering at night. But this sound felt different. It felt scared. Fragile. Like a child trying not to cry. The sound came again. A broken whimper that cut through the cold air. Cade grabbed his flashlight and stepped over old metal plates. The ground crunched under his boots. He scanned the shadows, looking left and right, moving carefully between scrap towers. The wind carried the smell of iron and dust. Every step he took echoed loudly in the silent night. The cry came again. Closer now. Cade followed it behind the largest scrap mound. He lowered his flashlight and saw something small lying between torn cloth and metal pipes. For a moment, he forgot to breathe. It was a child. But not a human child. Her skin glowed faint blue, like moonlight trapped under the surface. Her hair was pale and thin, almost silver. Her eyes were half open, staring at nothing. Her tiny body trembled from cold and fear. Cade dropped to his knees. "Hey, hey, easy," he whispered, afraid his voice might hurt her. She flinched when his hand touched her shoulder, as if even a gentle touch caused pain. Her legs, they were twisted in a way no child's legs should ever be twisted. They looked broken a long time ago, then left to heal wrong. Her clothes were ripped and dirty. She looked like she had been lying there for hours, maybe longer. Cade felt anger rising inside him. Who would abandon a child like this? Who would leave her to die in a scrapyard? He slid his arms under her carefully. She gasped in pain, the sound sharp and desperate. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry," he whispered again and again as he lifted her. She was too light. Far too light for a child her size. Like she hadn't eaten properly in days. Something caught his eye on the ground. A small wooden tag. He picked it up. Carved into the surface was a single alien word. He recognized it enough to understand. Forsaken. Cade clenched his teeth. His anger grew stronger, burning hot in his chest. The girl opened her eyes a little. Her pupils glowed silver. They were full of fear and confusion. She looked at him like she couldn't believe someone was holding her gently. "It's okay," Cade whispered. "I've got you now." He carried her toward his buggy, moving fast but careful. Then suddenly, a strange violet light flickered across the factory wall. Cade froze. Something huge moved above the scrap piles. A shadow. Slow. Watching him. The air turned colder. The violet light flickered again, closer this time. The girl clutched Cade's jacket with her tiny fingers. She trembled harder. Cade whispered, "Are they looking for you?" She shook her head weakly, but her breath came out sharp, shaky, terrified. Cade hurried to the buggy. He placed her inside and started the engine. The violet light vanished at once. The night grew silent. But it was not a peaceful silence. It was a warning. Cade glanced at the child in the seat beside him. "You're safe with me now," he said softly. But deep down, he knew the truth. He had no idea what kind of danger he had just picked up from the trash heaps of Rust Vale. He only knew one thing. He was not going to leave her behind. Cade pushed open the door to his small workshop home, carrying the trembling alien child in his arms. The room was warm compared to the freezing scrapyard outside. A dim yellow lamp flickered on the table, giving the space a soft glow. Tools hung on the walls, and spare machine parts covered the shelves, but it still felt safer than the cold night. He placed the girl on a blanket beside the heater. She curled into herself, shivering, her silver eyes half closed. Her glowing blue veins pulsed faintly with every breath, brightening whenever fear rose inside her. "You're all right," Cade said gently. "You're inside now." She didn't answer, only watched him, unsure if she could trust him yet. Cade brought warm water and a small bowl of broth. Her hands shook too much to hold the cup, so he lifted it for her. She sipped slowly, her eyes softening with each warm swallow. After a long moment, she whispered a tiny word. "N.I., Ray." Cade leaned closer. "Is that your name?" She nodded weakly. "Nairi," he repeated softly. "It's a beautiful name." For the first time, she looked at him with something that wasn't fear. Maybe hope. But peace didn't last. A sudden scratch echoed from outside. Cade froze. Nairi's glowing veins brightened instantly. Her breath hitched like she recognized the sound. Another scratch. Long, slow. Sharp. Cade walked to the door and opened it a little. A cold gust pushed inside. He looked left, then right. Nobody. But something else was there. Carved deep into the wooden frame, still fresh, still wet from whatever tool had cut it, were words written in an alien script. Cade knew enough to read it. "Return the tainted one." His blood ran cold. He backed inside and shut the door fast. Nairi stared at him, her eyes wide, terrified before he even spoke. "Cade," she whispered softly, voice shaking. He knelt beside her. "Someone followed us from the scrapyard." Tears slipped down her glowing cheeks. She tried to speak but her voice cracked. "They always watch." Cade checked her legs again. Twisted. Cold. Broken long ago. No child, human or alien, deserved to suffer like this. "Did someone do this to you?" he asked quietly. Nairi squeezed her eyes shut. More tears fell. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her silence told the story. Cade felt anger boil inside him, stronger than anything he had felt in years. He wanted to protect her. Fix her. Make her feel safe. But before he could say anything, the lights in the house went out. Everything went black. The heater shut off. The lamp flickered once and died. The room turned cold in an instant. Nairi gasped. Her glowing veins burst into bright blue light, reacting to sudden fear. Then a deep humming filled the air. It wasn't inside the house. It was above it. Cade stepped to the window and moved the curtain just a little. His heart stopped. A giant shadow moved across the sky. Slow. Heavy. Silent except for the deep hum shaking the walls. The shadow circled above his home like a predator that knew exactly where its prey was hiding. Nairi clutched the blanket, trembling so hard her teeth chattered. "Cade," she whispered. "They are close." "Who?" he whispered urgently. Her silver eyes glowed bright as she answered. "Trackers." The air outside pulsed again with violet light. Cade grabbed a wrench, the only weapon he had, and stood between Nairi and the door. Then the hum grew louder. The walls vibrated. Dust fell from the ceiling. Somebody, or something, had found them. Cade spoke without turning his head, his voice calm but shaking beneath the surface. "You're not going back to them. Not while I'm here." Nairi's small hand reached out and touched his arm. Her fingers trembled, but her eyes held desperate trust. "Cade, please, don't let them take me." He tightened his grip on the wrench. "I won't," he whispered. But outside, the shadow grew larger. And Cade feared he had just promised something he wasn't ready for. The humming above Cade's house grew deeper, like a giant machine breathing in the dark. The walls shook softly. Tools hanging on the wall rattled. Nairi curled into the blanket, her glowing veins shining so bright they lit the room like tiny blue lightning lines. "Cade," she whispered, voice trembling. "They smell the glow. They always find me." He moved to her quickly and placed both hands around her arms, trying to block the light. It dimmed a little, but he could still see it leaking through his fingers. Her body trembled so hard he felt each shiver against his palms. The hum suddenly stopped. Complete silence. Then. Thud. Something landed on the roof. Cade's blood turned cold. Nairi covered her ears and cried softly. "No, no, they're here." Cade grabbed her and held her close. "Don't make a sound," he whispered. Another thud. This one slower. Heavier. Something was walking on the roof. Metal scraping on metal. Cade looked toward the hidden trapdoor in the corner, the entrance to his old underground cellar. He took a single step. The roof above creaked. He froze. Dust drifted down from the ceiling. The creature above pressed its weight onto the beams, sniffing, searching. Cade held Nairi against his chest and moved one step at a time across the room. He reached the wall, tapped a small switch, and the trapdoor began to open. Creak. The slow, loud groan echoed like a scream in the silent house. The footsteps on the roof stopped instantly. Cade didn't breathe. Didn't blink. Didn't move. Nairi's entire body pulsed with blue light as her fear spiked. Then. A long, sharp metal claw punched through the ceiling. Cade jumped back with Nairi in his arms as the claw scraped across wooden beams, tearing long cracks through the roof. Splinters fell like rain. Cold wind poured inside. He had no time. He dropped into the dark cellar with Nairi in one arm and pulled the trapdoor shut just as another claw ripped through the ceiling where he had been standing moments ago. The cellar swallowed them in darkness. Cade placed Nairi on an old storage crate, then crouched beside her. He held her hands tightly, not to comfort her, but to keep her glowing veins covered. Even the smallest light could reveal them. Above, the house groaned. Bang! The front door exploded open. Wood shattered. Metal footsteps entered. Cade's heart hammered so loudly he feared the hunters might hear it. A cold mechanical voice echoed through the house. "Signal detected. The target is near." Nairi whimpered. Cade quickly covered her mouth gently. Another voice, sharper, colder. "She is weak. Broken. She cannot run." Nairi shook her head in silent terror. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Cade clenched his jaw. He wanted to yell at them. Fight them. Tear them apart for every scar on Nairi's small body. But he stayed still, breathing slowly, protecting her glow with both hands. Above them, heavy footsteps moved from room to room. Furniture cracked. Windows shattered. Something metal scraped across the floor. Then. A step came directly above the trapdoor. Cade shut his eyes. The trapdoor handle rattled once. Nairi's breath hitched. The hunter sniffed the air. Metal claws tapped on the wooden door. Then, silence. Cade didn't dare exhale. Seconds passed like hours. Finally, the footsteps moved away. The hunters continued tearing the house apart, searching every wall, every corner, every shadow. Then the deep humming started again. The hunters were leaving. Nairi whispered into the darkness, her voice paper thin. "They will not stop, Cade. They never stop." Cade lifted her chin gently. Even in the dark, he could see the faint glow of her fear. Then we move, he whispered. Before they come back. He held her close as dust continued falling from the ruined house above, knowing this was only the beginning of the danger he had stepped into. Cade pushed open the trapdoor slowly, only after the humming faded into the night. A wave of cold air rushed inside the cellar. Dust still floated through the air from where the hunters had crushed his roof. The house looked broken, twisted, half destroyed, but still standing. He lifted Nairi gently. Her body felt lighter now, not from strength, but from fear and exhaustion. Her glowing veins were dim again, like fading stars under her skin. "We can't stay," Cade whispered. "They'll return." Nairi nodded weakly. Her voice came out small, like a breeze slipping through cracks. "They feel me even from far, they always feel me." Cade adjusted his grip on her and stepped over shattered furniture. His boots crunched over broken glass and metal shards. The once warm house felt like a grave. Outside, the night was colder than before. The ground still trembled faintly from the hunter's movement. Cade rushed behind the house, toward the old service hatch hidden under layers of metal sheets. Almost no one remembered it existed. But he did. He pushed the rusted cover aside. A narrow metal door waited beneath. Cade kicked it open. A blast of cold, stale air rose from the darkness below. Nairi shivered. "It smells like old things." "It is old," Cade answered. "Old but safe." He stepped down the ladder into the forgotten tunnels. The metal door clanged shut above them, leaving the world of moonlight and hunters behind. The underground corridor stretched long into shadow. Dim emergency lights flickered on the walls, casting long trembling shapes across the stone. Their weak glow made everything look older, almost haunted. Nairi held tightly to Cade's jacket. "They stay above ground, mostly," she whispered. "They don't like the deep places." "That's good," Cade replied. "Because we're going deep tonight." He walked fast, knowing every second mattered. The walls dripped with moisture, and the air tasted like cold metal. Their footsteps echoed with each step, sounding louder than they should. Nairi suddenly lifted her head. Her glowing veins brightened a little. "Cade," she whispered, "stop." He froze mid-step. She turned her face toward the ceiling, eyes squeezed tight. "I feel heavy steps," she whispered. "Above us. Searching. Listening." Cade listened too. For a moment, all he heard was his heartbeat. Then a faint rumble. Dust fell from the ceiling. Hunters. Walking over the tunnels. "Are they tracking us?" Cade asked. "No," Nairi whispered. "They are searching in circles. They don't know where we are yet." Cade nodded. "Then we keep moving before they do." He continued deeper until the tunnel split into two narrow paths. The left route was filled with broken support beams. The right path looked clearer but had a strange hum echoing through it. Before Cade could decide, Nairi tugged his sleeve weakly. "Not right," she whispered. "There is a machine watching. A small one. With red eyes." Cade didn't question her. She felt things he couldn't. She heard machines the way humans hear thunder. He turned left, squeezing through the broken beams. Sharp metal scraped his jacket and arms, but he pushed through, shielding Nairi with his body. After a few minutes, the path opened into a small chamber. Old equipment sat rusted against the walls. Faded warning signs hung crookedly. A broken bench lay under a cracked lamp. Cade lowered Nairi onto the bench. "Rest for a minute. I'll check the way ahead." But Nairi grabbed his wrist. "No," she whispered. "Don't leave, the ground is moving." Cade paused. He felt it too, just a little. A faint vibration in the stone. Not steps above. Not machines. Something else. "What is that?" he whispered. Nairi closed her eyes. Her glowing veins flickered like tiny lightning rivers. "A hunter drone," she said. "Small. Fast. Close." Cade stepped back. He looked toward the tunnel mouth, and his breath caught. A thin red beam slid across the far wall. Scanning. The drone was here. Cade rushed back and lifted Nairi into his arms without a word. He moved quickly behind an old panel of fallen metal. The drone floated into the chamber, silent as a ghost, its red light sweeping the room like a blade. Nairi covered her mouth with her trembling hands, trying not to breathe loudly. The beam slid closer. Closer. Cade's muscles tensed. He held Nairi tighter, ready to run even though there was nowhere to go. Then Nairi leaned toward him and whispered the faintest breath. "There is a hidden tunnel." Cade's pulse spiked. "Where?" She lifted a shaking finger toward a collapsed wall on the left. "Behind the stones. A small path. Not meant for big machines." Cade didn't hesitate. As the drone scanned the room, Cade used all his strength to shove the rocks aside just enough to slip through. The stones scraped loudly. The drone turned its red beam toward the noise. Cade didn't look back. He squeezed into the narrow crack, scraping his shoulders painfully, shielding Nairi with his arms. The opening was barely wide enough for him, but it led somewhere. Somewhere the hunters didn't know. Once inside the hidden passage, Nairi whispered shakily. "You trust me, even when no one else did." Cade looked at her small, glowing face. "I trust you," he said quietly. "Because you deserve someone who does." And in the cold darkness, with hunters searching above and drones scanning behind, they moved deeper into the unknown, running from danger, running toward hope. Together. The hidden passage grew wider as Cade pushed deeper into the underground. The walls became smoother, colder, almost polished. Strange cables hung from above like metal vines, and faint echoes hummed through the dark stone. Nairi clung to Cade's jacket, her breathing shallow but steady now. Her glowing veins were faint, like stars behind clouds, but still alive. After a long turn in the tunnel, the narrow passage opened into a massive underground chamber. Cade stopped. His eyes widened. Steel pillars rose from the floor like the ribs of a giant machine. Broken screens flickered faintly on the walls. And at the center stood a tall structure, tall as a building, glowing with a soft blue pulse. An old relay tower. A forgotten part of the colony wars. A machine that still breathed after decades of silence. Nairi's body stiffened the moment she saw it. Her glowing veins brightened. Her breath trembled. Her eyes filled with fear, and something deeper. Recognition. Cade glanced at her. "You know this place?" Nairi swallowed. Her hands shook as she pointed weakly at the tower. "This," she whispered, "is what they wanted me for." Cade knelt beside her. "What do you mean?" Nairi didn't answer at first. Her eyes were locked on the tower's pulse, matching her own heartbeat. Then she spoke slowly, voice shaky, fragile. "I was born with a glow. Not like the others. My glow talks to machines." Cade listened carefully, afraid to interrupt. "I can hear signals. I can feel energy. I can wake dead metal. My people feared this. They said I was dangerous, that my glow would bring storms, enemies, war." She took a shaking breath. "When I was small, they connected me to a tower like this. They forced my mind into it. They wanted to use me to power weapons. To control ships. To stop enemies they imagined in the stars." Her voice cracked. "It hurt, it burned inside my head. I screamed and screamed. They told me to obey. They said I belonged to the machines." Tears slid down her cheeks. Cade's hands curled into fists. He wanted to punch the metal floor. Break something. Anything. And when I cried too much, Nairi whispered, they broke my legs, so I could never run. Cade closed his eyes. He felt a deep anger, cold, sharp, impossible to ignore. How could anyone do this to her? To a child? Nairi touched his sleeve gently. Cade, do you think I am cursed? He shook his head instantly. No. You're gifted. They were wrong. Nairi's eyes softened, but fear still lingered. She looked back at the tower. It remembers me, she whispered. I feel it calling. The chamber suddenly trembled. Dust fell from the ceiling. A deep metallic roar echoed through the tunnel behind them. Lights on the relay tower flickered like waking eyes. Cade stood up fast and looked toward the sound. A hunter ship smashed through the upper tunnel wall, forcing its way into the chamber. Dust exploded into the air. Sparks burst across the floor. Four armored hunters jumped out, landing with heavy metallic thuds. Their helmets glowed red. Blades extended from their arms. Nairi gasped and clung to Cade's shirt. The hunters scanned the room. A cold mechanical voice echoed. Target found. Another voice followed. Retrieve the glowing one. The human is irrelevant. Cade stepped in front of Nairi. Stay back, he whispered to her. I'll protect you. Nairi shook her head violently. No. They will kill you, they always kill the protectors first. Cade tightened his grip on his wrench. I'm not leaving you. The hunters took a step forward. Their red lights brightened. Nairi's glowing veins reacted instantly, flaring bright blue like fire inside her skin. She cried out softly, covering her head. Cade, she whispered, I can stop them, but the tower, it hurts. Cade grabbed her shoulders. Nairi, look at me. Her silver eyes lifted, full of fear. You are not a weapon, Cade said firmly. Not theirs. Not anyone's. She shook her head. Then what do I do? You choose, he said. Not them. Not your people. You. For a moment, Nairi stared at him, really stared, as if no one in her entire life had ever given her the power to choose anything. Then she took a breath. A long, shaky, brave breath. I will try, she whispered. Cade lifted her carefully and ran toward the relay tower as the hunters charged forward. Blades raised. Red lights flashing. Steps shaking the ground. Cade slid behind the tower's damaged shield plate and placed Nairi's hands on the glowing core. The tower pulsed. Nairi's glow responded. And the entire chamber filled with rising blue light. The hunters closed in. Cade braced himself. Something powerful was coming. And this time, Nairi wasn't running. The relay tower's core pulsed brighter as soon as Nairi's trembling hands touched it. Blue rings of energy rippled across the metal, like the machine had been waiting years for her return. Nairi gasped as the glow in her veins flared to life, brighter than anything Cade had seen before. Behind them, the hunters charged. Their metal feet slammed against the floor. Their blades glowed red with heat. Their eyes burned like twin fires locked on their target, Nairi. Capture the glowing one. Dispose of the human. Cade stepped in front of her without thinking, raising his wrench even though it was useless against steel monsters. His heart pounded so hard he felt it in his throat. But he refused to move. Then Nairi screamed. Not from fear. From power. Blue-white light burst from her palms, racing through the tower like lightning through wires. The ancient machine awakened fully, humming louder, louder, until the entire chamber shook. The hunters stopped mid-step. Energy spike detected, one growled. They raised their blades. And the tower erupted. A shockwave exploded outward, raw and wild. Lightning shot across the floor like tangled branches. Blue energy hit the hunters with the force of a collapsing star. Their armor rattled violently. Their blades flickered. Their red eyes blinked in panic. Nairi screamed again, her body trembling under the strain. Cade grabbed her shoulders from behind, steadying her even though the energy stung his hands. "I'm here," he yelled over the roar. "You're not alone." Her glowing veins lit her entire body. Her eyes turned bright silver white. The tower pulsed with every beat of her heart. The hunters tried to push forward through the storm. One forced its foot down. Then another. Its armor sparking heavily. "Shut her down," it roared. But Nairi's power only grew. The energy wrapped around her like living fire, rising higher and brighter. Cade watched in awe as the relay tower's dead systems roared back to life. Screens flickered. Cables hummed. The floor vibrated. Nairi cried out in pain, but she didn't pull away. She didn't run. She fought. Blue arcs surged outward again, slamming into the hunters. Metal cracked. Sparks exploded from their chests. Their voices turned distorted, glitching as their systems failed. One hunter fell to its knees, body shaking violently. Another collapsed backward, smoke pouring from its vents. A third slashed wildly, its blade hitting the ground as it short-circuited. The last hunter raised its arm toward Nairi. Then froze mid-swing. Its red eyes flickered. Darkened. And went out. Then the metal giants collapsed in unison, crashing to the ground with heavy, final thuds. Silence. The storm faded. The tower dimmed. Nairi's glowing veins flickered weakly like candlelight in the wind. Her small body wobbled. Cade caught her before she fell. She leaned against him, trembling, eyes half open. "Cade," she whispered, voice tiny and broken. Did I stop them?" Cade pulled her close, his hands shaking with emotion. "You stopped all of them," he said. "You saved us." Nairi's eyes watered. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. But, they never stopped chasing." Cade brushed her hair aside gently. "You didn't hurt anyone. You protected yourself. You protected me." Her glowing veins dimmed even more, fading into pale blue. "I'm so tired," she whispered. "I know," Cade said softly. "Rest now. I've got you." He lifted her in his arms. Her small head rested on his shoulder as the last sparks from the fallen hunters faded across the chamber floor. Cade looked around. The relay tower hummed softly, calm now, peaceful, almost gentle. Like it understood the child who awakened it, and respected her. But Cade also knew the truth. This victory wasn't the end. It was only a moment of quiet between storms. The hunters would send more. Something bigger. Something worse. He held Nairi closer. "I won't let them take you," he whispered. And for the first time since he'd found her in the scrapyard, Nairi didn't tremble at those words. She relaxed against him, breathing slowly, trusting him completely. Together, they stepped away from the fallen machines, toward the tunnel that led back to the surface. Not knowing who or what waited for them up there. But Cade didn't care. As long as he had Nairi in his arms, he would face anything. Anything. Cade climbed the narrow exit ladder with Nairi held close against his chest. The night air hit him like a cold wave as he pushed the old hatch open. Stars shimmered weakly above, hidden behind drifting smoke clouds. He stepped out onto the surface. And stopped. All across the hill in front of him, dozens of glowing figures stood silently. Their silver skin reflected the moonlight. Their pale eyes watched him with fear, guilt, and confusion. Nairi's people. Some had cuts on their arms. Others trembled from exhaustion. The hunters had reached their settlement too, but these people had survived. Cade held Nairi tighter. An elderly alien woman stepped forward slowly, her hands shaking. Her glowing lines flickered with shame. Is that the child we abandoned?" she asked softly. Cade's jaw tightened. "She has a name," he said sharply. "Her name is Nairi." Whispers rippled through the group. Faces lowered. Eyes filled with regret. Nairi opened her eyes, tired but aware. She looked at her people, really looked, and her small fingers tightened on Cade's jacket. "They were afraid," she whispered. "But fear hurts." The elder lowered her head. "We believed her glow was a curse. We believed she would bring danger." She swallowed hard. "Instead, she protected us." Nairi's silver eyes softened. She rested her head against Cade's chest and whispered, "I never wanted to hurt anyone." Cade stepped forward, voice steady. "She risked her life. She fought the hunters. She saved me. She saved this whole place. Not one of you came for her, but she came back for you." A heavy silence fell over the hill. The young alien beside the elder stepped forward, tears shining in his eyes. "We were wrong," he whispered. "We hurt her because we didn't understand her gift. We broke what we should have protected." His voice cracked. He kneeled. One by one, every alien on the hill knelt too, bowing their heads to a child they had once thrown away. Nairi trembled at the sight. Her glowing veins shimmered softly, as if responding to their hearts instead of their fear for the first time. Then, the ground beneath her feet glowed gold. A soft, warm light rose from the soil, curling gently around her legs like threads of living fire. Cade stepped back in surprise as the glow moved upward, spreading warmth across her twisted bones. Nairi gasped. Not in pain, but in shock. She felt something she had never felt before. Heat. Strength. Life. Her legs straightened slowly, bones shifting with soft cracks. The muscles tightened. The skin glowed brighter and brighter until the twisted shape slowly melted away. Cade watched with wide eyes. Her people watched with held breath. Nairi's legs were healing. When the glow faded, her legs looked normal, fragile but no longer broken. The golden light seeped back into the earth like a gentle spirit returning home. Nairi stared down, tears falling. "Cade. I can feel them," she whispered with trembling joy. "My legs, they listen to me." "Try," Cade said softly. "I'm right here." With shaky hands, she pushed herself up from his embrace. Her legs trembled, her knees wobbled, and Cade stayed close in case she fell. But she didn't. She stood. The child who had crawled through dirt. The child who was thrown away. The child who was hunted. She stood. Her glowing veins lit her from within, not with fear, but hope. Her people gasped. Some covered their mouths. Some wept openly. The elder whispered, trembling. "A gift, not a curse." Nairi turned to Cade. Her voice broke into a tiny, shaky smile. "You picked me up when they left me," she whispered. "And now, I can stand because of you." Cade knelt to her level, his eyes full of emotion. "No," he said gently. "You're standing because you are stronger than all of them. Stronger than they ever believed." Nairi smiled, small, radiant, beautiful. The wind carried away the last traces of smoke. The stars shone brighter. And Nairi, child of the glow, stood proudly on the hill with her people before her and the human who refused to abandon her beside her. She was no longer forsaken. No longer hunted. No longer broken. Her story was no curse. It was a beginning.